The tongue, such a small part of our body, yet with it great words come out of our mouth. Sometimes these words can cause great joy and happiness and surprise. Other times they create disappointment and confusion. And even worse yet, sometimes great anger. It seems that we simply don't know when to be quiet. And when we don't stop talking and keep speaking, sometimes we have great regret over the words that come out of our mouth. The Bible describes the tongue as a fire. It seems that no one can control it. Let's open the Bible today and see what it has to say about the tongue. And more importantly, what it has to say about overcoming this problem in our lives. Let's open the Bible and see what it has to say. James 3 says this about the tongue. This is what James chapter 3 says about the tongue, starting in verse 3. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet they are turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. This is talking about the effect that the tongue can have in our life and in other people's life. In verse 6, it calls the tongue as a fire, a world of iniquity, in other words, sin. And that with the tongue, it can defile the whole body. It can set things on fire, things that you can't put out. Verses 7 through 10. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith we curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessings and cursings. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. So with the tongue we bless God, but with that same tongue we curse men who are made after the image of God. And here James is saying these things should not be so. We shouldn't be able to have both blessings and cursings that come out of the same mouth. But why is the case? It's because no man can tame the tongue. It's unruly, evil, full of deadly poison. Let's continue on in James chapter 3, starting with verse 13. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of the good conversation his works, with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. Notice who the wise man is. He has a good conversation. The words that come out of his mouth show his works, that he has meekness of wisdom. And talks about that many have bitter envying and strife in their hearts. Notice the cause of the issue here. It's what's in our hearts. It says this wisdom is not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. The wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. This is the wisdom from above. This is the wisdom that we're supposed to have. We're supposed to speak with spiritual wisdom, not from the carnal nature that we were born with. Continue on in James 4. We're going to be reading verses 7 through 12. It says, submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Be afflicted, and mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to heaviness. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Speak not evil of one another. Brethren, he that speaketh evil of his brother, and judges his brother, speaketh evil of the law, and judgeth the law. But if thou judge the law, then thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver, who is able to save and to destroy. Who art thou that judgest another? Again, the issue is in our hearts. What's in our hearts comes out in our words. This is the work that the tongue does in our lives. And what's in your heart, given enough pressure, will eventually come out through your voice and through your actions. He just goes on to say, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. There's choices we make every day, and those include how we speak, what words we choose, and that's determined by what's in our hearts. In Matthew 12, verses 33 through 37, it says this, either make the tree good and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt, for the tree is known by its fruit. O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. A good man out of the good treasure of the heart bring forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. But I say unto you, that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So what do you have in your heart? Do you have good treasure in your heart, the things of God, or do you have evil treasure in your heart? Because good treasure bringeth forth good things, and evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. It's out of the abundance of our heart that we speak. And there will be consequences not only in this life, but at the day of judgment. For Jesus says that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Romans 2, verses 28 and 29 says this, for he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. This is something that we all need, the circumcision of our heart, the change of heart that can only come about through the Son of God, Jesus Christ. This is the answer to the problem of one's tongue, which in reality is really an issue of the heart. This is what Ephesians 3, verses 14 through 19 says. For this cause I bow my knees unto the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, of whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named, that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with might by his Spirit in the inner man, that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with all the fullness of God. We all need to be strengthened by God's Spirit, which we receive through his Son, Jesus Christ. We all need Christ dwelling in our hearts, which requires faith, so we can be rooted and grounded in love, that we can know the love of Christ, which is beyond our knowledge, that we might be filled with the fullness of God. That creates a new heart within us, that changes the words that come out of our heart, through our mouths, through our lips, through our tongue. Galatians 4, verses 4 through 7. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Again, this is the answer to the problem of the tongue, which is really, again, a problem of the heart. That God has sent forth his Son into the world to be made of a woman, made under the law. He experienced life as we experienced, yet he overcame. And now God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Remember, it was in the Garden of Gethsemane that Jesus was crying, Abba, Father, when he was under the greatest stress of having the sins of the world laid upon him. And when we're under stress, with the temptation of sin that we're being assaulted with by Satan, God sends the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2. Wherefore, seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight, and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. These witnesses that he's being talked about in verse 1 refers to the previous chapter of Hebrews 11, which is known as the faith chapter. It's the testimony or the witness of those that were faithful to God. And it tells of their faith and their stories in chapter 11. And so here, Paul is saying, when we consider all these witnesses that were before us, let's lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. So how is Jesus the author of our faith? Let's go to Hebrews chapter 5. I'm going to read verses 1 through 9. For every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to God, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for that he himself also is compassed with infirmity. So this high priest, this human high priest in the earthly sanctuary in the Old Testament, had an understanding of those services that he performed for those that came to the tabernacle, because he himself had some of the same issues. Verse 3, and by reason hereof he ought, for as the people, so also for himself, to offer for sins. And no man taketh this honor to himself, but he that is called of God, as was Aaron. So also Christ glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that said unto him, Thou art my son, today I have begotten thee. As he saith also in another place, Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek, who in the days of his flesh, talking about Christ, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and he was heard in that he feared. Though he were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. Jesus Christ came to this earth. He was made in all ways like his brethren, as we'll read in a moment. Romans 8 says he came in the likeness of sinful flesh. He suffered the things that we suffer here on this earth. He learned obedience by the things which he suffered, and he was made perfect and became the author of eternal salvation because he had the same experience as we do. Let's go to Hebrews 2 and read verses 9 through 18. It says, But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. For it became him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. For both he that is sanctified and they who are sanctified are all of one, for which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the church I will sing praises unto thee. And again I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the children which God hath given me. This is talking about Jesus Christ, who is made the captain of our salvation through his sufferings. He was made like his brethren, saying, I will declare thy name to my brethren, talking about the name of God, name of his Father. And again, I will put my trust in him. Jesus put his trust totally in God, his Father. And so Jesus was perfected to become our mediator, our comforter, our advocate, and our intercessor, and our high priest, because he suffered and lived the same life that we live here on this earth. It goes on. Verse 14, Forasmuch then as the children are takers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, and that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage, the bondage of sin. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Wherefore in all things it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be merciful and faithful high priest in the things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself suffered, being tempted, he is able to secure them that are tempted. Jesus became like us. He was made in all ways like his brethren. He took on the seed of Abraham, not the seed of angels, or the nature of angels. So he has our experience. And he was successful. He was victorious because he put his faith in his Father. And now, when we're being tempted, he can help us overcome sin in our time of need. He can rescue us. Hebrews 2:18. For in that he himself has also suffered, having been tempted, he is able to rescue those who are being tempted. This is the modern King James Version. Hebrews 4, verses 14 through 16. Since then we have a great high priest who has passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our profession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmity, but was in all points tempted just as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Galatians 2, verses 16 through 20. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus, even we have believed in Jesus Christ, that we might be justified by the faith of Christ, and not by the works of the law, for by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. It was because of the faith of Christ in his Father he was able to overcome sin in this world, having been made in all ways like his brethren, having come in the likeness of sinful flesh. And so, because of the faith of Jesus Christ, we have this opportunity for salvation. Verse 17. But if, while we seek to be justified by Christ, we ourselves also are found sinners, is therefore Christ the minister of sin? God forbid. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. For I, through the law, am dead to the law, that I might live unto God. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Colossians 1, verses 26 through 29. Even the mystery, which has been hid from the ages and from generations, but is now made manifest to his saints, to whom God would make known what is the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory, whom we preach, warning every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, that we may present every man perfect in Christ Jesus. Whereunto I also labor, striving according to his working, which worketh in me mightily. Paul experienced the working of Christ in him, and he wants to share that knowledge with everyone, that it is Christ in you, the hope of glory, how we can overcome sin in this life and be made acceptable to God. Romans 5, verses 6 through 10. For when we were yet without strength, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. When we were without strength, when we didn't have any power in ourselves to overcome sin, that's when Jesus died for you and for me. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. But God commendeth his love towards us, that, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Much more than being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. For if when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. Notice that God, even though we were enemies, sent his Son to die for us. Well, we were yet sinners, when we didn't have the ability to overcome sin in our lives, when we lacked the strength to do so, when we were ungodly. And it says, for if then when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, because sin separates us from God, and that death of his Son took away our sins, so now we are reconciled to God. Much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by his life, the life that he wants to live in you and in me. Christ in you, the hope of glory. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 55 through 57. It says, O death, where is thy sting? This is at the resurrection of the righteous when Christ comes again. O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. There's a victory in Jesus. Victory to overcome sin in our life. Victory to have a changed heart. So the things that we speak out of our heart are acceptable to God. So our tongue will no longer be a fire. That we can control our tongue. Because if we have a changed heart, then the things that come out of our heart will not start any fires. I hope this is helpful. I hope you see that the issue with the words that we say, with what the tongue speaks, really comes from our hearts, the condition of our hearts, and that Jesus Christ has been sent by his Father, the Spirit of Christ, into our hearts to help us in our time of need, because he has our experience. He has overcome these things while he was on this earth, and now wants to help us do the same. I hope you continue to study these things. This is really essential to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And may God continue to bless you as you study his word.